Okay, wonderful. So, um, okay, so my name is Carly. My pronouns are she, her, and I work at Ellisburg on the Waterloo campus. And so I'm joining today from the territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Attawandaron peoples. And something that I wanted to I guess an introduction into one of the programs that Ellisburg has is actually just super connected to the land acknowledgement. And that's the story of how the Food Justice Garden started and how I came to be, I suppose. Um, so the Food Justice Garden started as a way to use existing space on Laurier campus during COVID to grow food and medicine. And there were a lot of medicines that were planted in the original location on campus um, in partnership with Indigenous community and campus folks. And when there was construction at the music building, Laurier told the garden folks, um, one day in advance that the entire garden was just going to be destroyed and bulldozed like the next day. Um, and so the fact that it was such a afterthought wasn't even they didn't even deem it first of all as an issue and second of all worthy of even communicating in advance and just the control that the institution had over the space the entire campus and then specifically the garden beds is just so indicative of the colonial power that this large campus has and so anyway, I'll can explain some more about that after, but I think that it's really important to situate what we're talking about in terms of relationship to land and community, remembering that where I am, we're on stolen land um, and located on the Haldeman Tract. And I would love if everyone can go around and just share, firstly, your name and your pronouns, and also how you're involved. So if you are involved in a garden or any kind of plantee or food or land-based program or collective, or if you've attended events like that or volunteer at anything like that, just why did you decide to join today? And also, this is a lot of things, so maybe I'll add it into the chat. But also the territory that you're on, um, if you can share that as well. And I'll just call on people if that's okay. So maybe Danny, would you be able to go first?
Sure. I am Danny, they, them pronouns. I am situated Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory in what's called Niagara. Um, and I am on the Operk Rock board and am part of a few community groups. None of them are centered on gardening and like land sovereignty specifically, but I am wanting to. There are groups that do that, and like Oak Brook has a garden, community gardens, and we work with Hay Neighbors that also is part of that has a community gardens. Um, but I am mostly just personally at this point have been um, kind of doing it on my own and trying to get connected to community, and so that's part of why I'm here. Um, and I will pass it on to Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela or Andy. Um, I use she, her, or he, him pronouns. Um, how am I involved in gardening? I'm personally a gardener. I've always loved gardening. I've worked in the greenhouse industry. and like in flower sales and stuff like that growing up. And now um in Ellisburg, I've helped out with the community garden in Waterloo, but I'm in Brantford now and have been thinking about whether I can connect students in with the community garden network that already exists and just trying to, funnel volunteers that way because it's such an important thing for food security and sovereignty. And I'm on the territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Attawandaron peoples. So, uh, Olivia has to head out soon, so I'm going to tap Olivia.
That's okay. My board just asked me to prepare a little talk. So I didn't know what the structure was going to be, but if that's not the plan, that's totally okay. But yeah, I don't have to head out until 12:30, so I still got some time. But my name is Olivia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm calling in from Hamilton, Ontario, otherwise the unceded territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Mississauga, and Haudenosaunee nations. And I go to McMaster University, and I've been the community garden coordinator for the past 2 years here. So Oberg McMaster actually helped kind of raise the garden up when it kind of slipped through the cracks during COVID. And we do a lot of work with the local food banks here. So all of our produce is grown by students and is given directly back to students. And I've been working in the community garden space for quite a few years. Like in high school, a while ago, I was a coordinator for the food bank community gardens back there. So have a I'm pretty familiar with those intersections, and yeah, excited to hear about where everyone else is coming from. I will pass it on to Talani. Am I saying your name right?
I don't know if my mic is clear. Is it clear? Hello? Hello?
Yep, you're
Oh,
good.
okay. So yeah, my name is Tony Akinla. I've been involved with the Community Food Justice Garden in Waterloo that is situated in the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Chonotone territory of people. Um, I've been involved in the sense that I like to go water the plants when I can, and yeah, I wouldn't have done any of that if Carly didn't plug me with all that was going on there. And yeah, I would like to. I'd say it's pretty fun. It helps with healing and all that. Um, I would say I would pass the mic on to Mandy.
Thanks, Talani. It looks like Mandy's having some tech issues, so she just put hers into the chat. Um, Name is Mandy, she, her, works at Oprah Guelph. In the 90s and 2000s, we had a permaculture garden, and there's some interest in starting up a community garden on campus here in Guelph. And Guelph is located on the traditional lands of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people, and the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Treaty 3 between the lakes. Thanks, Mandy, for sharing in the chat. Yeah, if you are having trouble, I'll be able to keep an eye on the chat. So just put any questions or comments in there. And it looks like Heather had to pop off already. I don't know if they will be able to come back, but Heather was joining from a community garden at York University. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. So I have a series of questions and for discussion. But because Olivia, you're going to need to leave in the next 15 minutes, I'm wondering if we can start with if you can just share a little bit more about what the community garden actually looks like. How is it structured? Who does the work? Is there staff? Is it volunteers? Is it daily, weekly? how is it funded? Just kind of an overview. And then you already answered one of my questions, which is what happens with the food that is grown that goes to the local food bank. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
For sure. I'm just gonna share my screen because I have some photos. I'm a visual person, so I think it would help. And also, is everyone hearing me okay? I'm in a quite a loud space right now.
Yeah, it's okay. We can hear a little bit, but we can totally hear you fine.
Okay. I didn't realize the place that I was going to be presenting in is the engineering capstone day. So all of the engineers in the university are here. And everyone can see my screen okay. Perfect. So this is a photo of some of our volunteers at the newly constructed McMaster Community Garden. So this garden was built, it was the end of last year, as an addition to one of the community gardens that we already had present on campus. And I'm just finishing up my undergraduate degree at McMaster right now. So when I came here in 2021, the first garden that we had was already there, but it was largely underused. So Oberg at McMaster helped a couple of undergraduate students fund employees to work at the gardens, to manage a volunteer team, and to organize a stream of donations to our local food bank. And that's how the gardens grew to what they are today at McMaster. And over the years, we grew a volunteer team. We had about 2 employees that were funded through the Canada Summer Jobs Grant our summer, and they worked into the fall and winter semester, which was incredible. And then, yeah, end of last year, we ended up building this garden. It was designed by students and accessibility services on campus. So it is a largely accessible garden. We have AODA standard pathways, lots of different heights of bed. So folks can sit or stand or move in whatever way is comfortable for them. We just really wanted the space to be open to any body that wanted to garden. So our grand opening is actually next Friday, which is very exciting. But in terms of kind of the structure of how we work at McMaster, Oberg was a big help in kind of getting us off the ground. So they provided the initial funding and kind of back end support for applying for a lot of the grants, and CSJ funding that made our employment happen. So that was incredible. But now we've actually moved to a different partner on campus. So we're with the Student Wellness Center, which runs kind of all of the medical operations for our undergraduate population. And it looks like that's the most sustainable way for us to move forward, which is exciting because we'll have a whole team of employees and gardeners working there. But if there's one thing that I would share to anyone else working on community gardens who's struggling with funding, which is, I think, the biggest thing that we've struggled with in the past, because it is, important to be able to pay people for their work and make sure that you support those gardeners year round, is to, especially if you're on a campus, find a group or an institution that can really pull you through that lack of continuity with students graduating. So that has been super helpful for us, and just finding allies on campus. And just to briefly go over some of the programs that we do, because this is something that I'm super proud of and passionate about. We've really tried to expand our reach in programs to different levels of education in the university, also within the community, and with the food bank that we're partnering with. So I mentioned before that all of the produce that we grow is given directly to the on-campus food bank and right back to students. That's our main mission here. So we do that through our garden volunteers, who are undergraduate students, graduate students. We try to get a big diversity of people in the garden, as many folks as we can. But we've also reached outside of the university and have run programs with the hospitals in the area. So last year we did a program with the McMaster Children's Hospital, with a group of patients there. And so they were able to come in, and they were youth as well, which was nice, just to have kind of reach outside of the university, because I know, at least at McMaster, but I know in academia in general, it tends to be a bit of a bubble. So one of our goals is really to prioritize that community outreach. And we also did that in form of local farm tours. So we wanted students who might be confined to campus and not have a way to go explore outside the escarpment to learn where some of their food comes from. So we ran field trips to a lot of local farms, learned about food production cycles, which a lot of people really, really liked and learned a lot from. And then on campus with our campus partners, we did a lot of cooking workshops. So in terms of the kind of food security aspect of our work, we really wanted to provide students with food directly from campus, but also teach them how to use it. Because one of the things that we noticed, and I'm sure all of you have working in university community garden food security spaces, is that a lot of students are food insecure. I think at Mac there was a survey done 3 years ago that said at least 50 to 60% of students have experienced moderate to severe insecurity at some point during their undergraduate degree. So we really wanted to be able to provide students with the actual produce to fuel their schooling, but also teach them how to use it. And then I think most excitingly for me, as someone who wants to see this project succeed long term, was partnerships with academic partners. So currently I'm helping to do research to develop a course that will, fingers crossed, be offered to undergraduate students in 2027 or 2028 that gets students into the garden doing hands-on work, but also teaching them research skills to support food insecurity efforts on campus. So I put this slide up just because I think, and I'm sorry I can't stay longer because I would love to hear about everyone else's programs. But it just goes to show that there's a lot of, there's a variety of different ways that community gardens can help, especially in university spaces. And the sky's the limit, I think, as long as you have support and long-term funding to kind of bridge that gap in the lack of continuity in student health. That is my last slide, but if folks have any questions, I am happy to answer.
I do have a question, but I'll open it up first. Does anyone else have a question for Olivia?
Um, just kind of like how many people can be in it like at a time?
So we, out of our 2 garden spaces, I think I haven't done like a max capacity test, but we could comfortably have about 80 student volunteers in rotation. So we would run 3 garden shifts per week during the summer. And I think there may be a max of 20 students between the 2 gardens.
That's amazing. That's really cool to hear. Angela?
As a profound lover of community gardens and also like having seen some of the pitfalls, I'm curious what sort of pitfalls you guys have faced in having a community garden on campus and how you navigate those challenges.
I think I agree. It's a very rewarding work. Like, I don't think any of us are here because we aren't passionate about doing community garden work. But I think for us, at least at the McMaster Community Garden, our biggest issues have been making sure we secure funding for our employees and just having that continuity and kind of knowledge translation between generations of people who are coming into the garden. So that's why we really wanted to lock into sort of a more permanent institution on campus, which for us was the Student Wellness Center. So we're moving away from our Oberg chapter, but how we started would not have been possible without them. So yeah, that is probably our biggest challenge, was just securing those relationships and making sure that, you know, when people like myself or my co-coordinator leave, there is somebody to maintain the visible space, because otherwise it'll just grow weeds and it's kind of handed off to the facilities landscapers, and I don't want that to be their responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. I think that that's probably a common theme for many folks. I have a question around the course development. This is really exciting, all the different kinds of partnerships. Never would have thought of hospital partnerships, but that also probably makes sense for McMaster and your kind of context at your university. But that's super cool. Um, in terms of course development, um, I don't know if you have specific courses or programs in mind. Like, is it environmental leaning? Is it kind of focused on food security? Is it like what do you envision for research and what is it kind of connected to? Because, a community garden, there's so many different like aspects to it.
That is an excellent question, and actually what we are trying to figure out right now in the midst of our course development. Um, but I think I have two examples of courses that are going to be in the garden. The first of which is a little bit more concrete because it's already happened. And that was a kind of intercession course that happens in the spring that is about gardening and designing community gardens. So we had a wonderful prof who ran that, Sarah Whit Hall, and she brought students into the garden and they got to learn how to sow seeds, pick weeds, tell the difference between different types of native plants and what's an invasive plant. So that was like a very clear connection to how educational opportunities can be tied to the garden. And the other course that we're working on right now is a little bit more theoretical. But what I'm trying to envision is really an opportunity for students to continue on food security research support. So what that looks like might be like, how can we make the ways that we grow food and how that's directed to the food bank on campus? How can we make that more effective? And how can we meet students' needs better? Because those needs might be changing year to year. So it could look like surveys year to year. It could look like doing research projects on how do we, improve different programs or aspects of what we're already offering. But we're in the process of figuring that out. So also, if anyone has any ideas or similar programs that they have run at their schools, I would be happy to hear about that.
Cool. Yeah, we can definitely share the recording with OPIRG McMaster folks and registrants, so you can hear if any the rest of the conversation for today. Um, Before you log off, I had one other question. I'm wondering why was it the wellness center or whatever it's called at McMaster? Why was that the department that ended up being the department that you partnered with?
So we actually hired an employee with them last year. And it was mostly because of a previous connection. So one of the managers in the Student Wellness Center at McMaster worked in the garden, I think around COVID time when Oprah had picked it up. So she had a huge knowledge base, or she knew a lot about gardening and how this specific garden ran. So I think the key was really just having someone who was interested already. But they also run a lot of cooking programs and food security support programs as well. So I think the relationship just seemed pretty natural. But in terms of other people that we were thinking about, like the facility services group at McMaster, they're wonderful. They had a sustainability team that I think previously ran the garden as well. So we were thinking about partnering with them. But our focus this year was really to dial in on how can we support food security on campus. So that's why we went with the Student Wellness Center partner.
Amazing. Yeah, so the importance of relationships and keeping that connection ended up kind of being your um foot in the door, I guess, with that department and the buy-in that they already had. So that's really cool to hear. Well, thank you so much, Olivia. I know that you have to hop off. It was really awesome to hear about this program. I have so many more questions, but it was really great to hear from you. And yeah, we'll send out the recording today for you.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to watching it back and hearing about everyone else's projects. And I'll put my email in the chat in case people have questions or ideas or want to come for a tour, I'm here until the end of April, and I'd be happy to take anyone.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Okay. So that was amazing to hear from Olivia over at McMaster's Community Garden. Phyllis, I'm wondering if you wanted to introduce yourself, share a little bit about the community gardens that you're involved in, how it works, what does it look like, how who does the work, what happens with the harvest, like just like a an overview would be awesome.
Nice. Thanks so much. And I'm so sorry again for hopping on late because I'm organizing all the seeds that have to like go into the little pots and I just got distracted. Anyhow, and I think very much the stuff that I was just hearing from Olivia at the end there resonates a lot with what we're doing over here at York. And we have been working with OPERG York as well, which has been a really great partnership to be able to host gardening activities and events, but also like dye workshops that we've been doing, natural dyes and mood walks, which are kind of walks around the campus. And so it's been pretty a nice partnership. Um, so Maloka Gardens, that's been around in at York for I think 30 years. I've just been here. This is my fourth season. Um, and I think I came just after COVID, and there was a real desire on the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Changes. I guess their administration or whole faculty was wanting the gardens to kind of get reignited and then sort of reestablished. And so we have community gardens, small plots at the back that kind of have been there forever. Honestly, the garden really just originates from students squatting ground here on campus, trying to grow food and for themselves. So it's sort of been this like 30-year um, I think it's got these sweet roots and resistance, which I really appreciate. And yeah, and then we're growing on Wendat territory, of course. So there's quite a legacy of ancestral growth here in terms of First Nations. So I kind of think we're all in the shadow of that goodness. So the small plots we have now about I think 24 of them that are active, and they can be people from the neighborhood as well as groups from campus, or we partner up a lot. There's at least if there's not a family, then there's about 4 people per plot that kind of team up. And then because I didn't want to be part of more like creating just constant small 7 by 10 or 10 by 10 plots, I wanted a couple of years ago, we started the communal fields because it was really inspired by a few of the communal gardens that have popped up, especially around the Jane Eglinton area. Here in Toronto, and so we built 2 kind of communal fields together. You could see it on the Maloka. There's a web page that we have, Maloka, Maloca. Yeah, yeah, it's up there. You can just have a look at that. We also um, those are the 2 fields where we work a lot with community and with students together. And usually that is a couple days of the week that people are able to come for open volunteering, but I also try to accommodate like placements for credit. I have work studies that are getting paid, which I really want to see more of happen. Um, and we have really nice community partnerships that we've been developing. So there is a small market garden enterprise, which is running out of Maloka as well, which has been a really great um, partnership. They're called Afro Tropical Market Garden Plus, and they're just such great mentors and honestly field guides. So I've been super thankful to have that partnership. And they're also growing their own food and herbs to be able to make tinctures and teas and all those things with, which we make as well, by the way. And and we've been kind of learning about four season work, like just how the work continues over time and how much is possible. Anyway, it's super exciting, and I feel like I could go on and on, but I just wanted to I just wanted to tap in to say that this is happening. And then I mentioned about the Common Ground Network for Olivia, and I will write it to her as well because like I don't know if you know, but there's a like U of T has a project going with the School of the Environment, and it's very focused on, foods, like post-secondary institutions that are involved in food systems transformation, and the idea of like student organized food projects. And anyway, so that has been a cool thing because, I keep feeling like actually unis have like lots of land that, can be used with communities so well, to really be a part of food justice, and some just like changes in the system that must happen, and are they're just so urgent, So anyway, that's what I
Absolutely.
feel. Yeah, that's
Thank
what
you
I'm
for
working on.
sharing. It's very exciting to hear. Yeah, are you able to stick around till 1:30? Or
What, oh, why? What's at 1:30?
no, I'm wondering, Olivia had to hop off, so we were really kind of having
Oh,
questions for her before she left, but I want
okay.
to hear from everyone and I have a lot of questions for everyone.
Oh,
So if
sorry.
you're
Okay,
able to stick
I
around.
can't even see who's all on the call. Sorry if I was just hogging up the floor
Oh, you
there.
weren't. No, I have questions, but I think I'll turn it to some other people and then I'd like to ask you lots. So I just wanted to make sure you can stick around.
I can do. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Okay, wonderful. Um, so I think, is there anyone else who would like to share a little bit more about the garden that you're connected to? Oh, Janice, you have joined. Hi, Janice, can you hear us? I think it was taking a minute for you to join, so I don't know how your connection is. Okay. We'll see if Janice is able to chime in. It might be a connection issue. Um, I can share a little bit of an overview of a few of Ellisburg's initiatives and kind of how they're structured. So the garden that Talani is involved in and that Angela was involved in as well is the Food Justice Garden, which is a program in partnership with the affiliated college at Laurier. And essentially how it works is it's a communal space and it's primarily for learning. So the harvest does go into our food security distro program. But the harvest is not the end goal because it is like a small harvest. It's not it's a small amount for the amount of produce that we actually need to feed the many students that come to our program every week. So it's primarily a space for students and community members to learn tangible skills, as well as to have conversations that are connected to the growing food. So we've had weekly sessions that, some it's talking about climate change and eco emotions. Sometimes it's talking about capitalism and food monopolies. Sometimes it's talking about indigenous sovereignty. Like there's so many different aspects. And I find it cool to have, some people who maybe are passionate about food security, but they don't really know much about Indigenous rights or, like kind of being able to have people plug in because they're passionate about one thing, but then show the different intersections and curiosities that come up as well. We also have an action group called KW Urban Harvester, which is a group that operates on part of Laurier's campus that is essentially like a small urban farm. There's different programs and connections that happen there, but KW Urban Harvester specifically has plots that are just for community members. So it's a pretty important relationship that's been happening for a few decades. And sometimes there's been some, needing to prove to the institution of Laurier that this is a valuable use of quote unquote their land. Um, but it's community members who are predominantly lower income, racialized people who don't have access to be able to grow their own food. And also, it allows them to be able to grow the food that is like culturally relevant to them, right? So there's a huge array of diversity in produce and herbs that are grown there. Which is wonderful. So that's another one of our groups. I'm wondering, Angela, if you wanted to share about what revitalizing our sustenance is, like a brief overview.
Sure. I can talk a little bit about revitalizing our sustenance. So, they are a group run by Haudenosaunee youth. At least when they started, they were youth. Uh, and now it's a learning opportunity for Indigenous youth to come to the land, learn about how to grow food using traditional knowledge systems. And occasionally they also allow colonizer folks like myself to go on the land and visit and participate in the land keeping activities. So we try to loop volunteers and students in with those opportunities to join and learn with the community members there.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. Danny, did you want to share anything further?
I'm not really involved with the community garden here, and that's predominantly because it's at the Bronx campus,
Mm,
and trans buses here suck, and aren't the most accessible, and um, I can't get to Brock campus without it being like an entire day thing for just a 1 hour event.
absolutely.
Um, but I am very interested in learning more about how people are getting these community gardens going because it would be nice to have more that are off campus and whether they're in partnerships with universities or not, but like trying to figure out how we can do that in a more accessible outside of the campus space.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Being able to just get to the location. We had at the kind of urban farm part of Lori that I was just referring to, um, there used to be a group called Young City Growers, which was a group where essentially they would hire local Black youth to grow the food, and then there would be a CSA program, a community supported agriculture program, which was really awesome. They ended up moving to a place that is like huge, like I forget how many acres it is, but it's on the outskirts of town. So it's a huge opportunity in terms of the amount of land that now that they have, but that was like a huge barrier of like, okay, we need to make sure that the youth who are engaged are able to actually get there. And then also if they have like community volunteering days where it's just like, hey, all hands on deck for this day, come help us. What is the level of engagement for people as well? So yeah, it's definitely important to think about in terms of bus routes. And I like what Olivia was sharing as well around just being accessible in terms of different raised beds and like different abilities and everything. So lots of things to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's
Um,
super interesting.
yeah, there's so many possibilities. Like I love just hearing um, from people, and I'm wondering, Phyllis, um, And sorry if I missed this, but I'm just wondering, like, is Maloka Community Garden part, like, are you a staff member somewhere? Is this a nonprofit? Is this a part of York University? Like, what is that structure? Where is it
Yeah.
housed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's definitely part of the university-ish. Um, although like even physically it sits right on the edge of the Black Creek watershed, so we're very like more it is very accessed by community members because it has a pathway leading right directly into the ravine and the woods behind it. So it's, people traverse it a lot. Um, but governance wise, I guess it's stewarded by the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change. And honestly, the only reason that I am able to be here as a paid, I guess you would call me a staff member, although in my, like, I'm kind of what's called a research associate. Originally, I came here while I was also involved in my graduate study here, right? So it kind of connected, and Maloka has sort of connected in that my background is arts and social movements. And so I'm, I feel like there's a lot of connection with eco and art movement building. So it there I'm paid because the dean was able to get a 3-year commitment from a one-time fund from the university. It was a very special fund, and I'm amazed that we got it. And it's of course now run out. And so now we're like, what do we do? And so, yeah, we're now in a place like I'm trying to figure out sort of how the strategy looks going forward because now we established this really awesome space, which similarly to like the food mostly goes to the community members that are part of it, but we also have a free farm table that we set up for students. We also connect with the Student Wellness Center for the open fridge program and things like that. So the stuff goes places. And I sort of consider selling some of it to be able to move things forward, but because I find it's hard, I can't apply for certain grants because I'm not independent as an independent not-for-profit organization, and because we're part of the university. Um, and yet I'm reticent to just try to go that route because I feel like I kind of feel there is a good connection here with the institution, and it should be a part of making this happen in the community. So, yeah, sorry, it's long-winded to say that I feel like we swim in between a little bit, and I'm still trying to figure out what the right structure is for the place.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's really, I imagine that's a common experience. I know it definitely resonated for us at Ellisburg in that sometimes we want to kind of emphasize the connection to the university because sometimes that's the access to the land or the funding or different infrastructure or whatever. But then sometimes it's more helpful to be autonomous and like
Yeah.
it's kind of it's both, and you want it to be sustainable. Um,
Mhm.
so a lot of kind of creative structuring and what ways to find funding to make it sustainable, I think is a common experience
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
for sure. Yeah,
So Ellisburg is an independent not-for-profit, yeah, as
that's
most
right. Yeah,
Oakburgs
same
are.
with OPERG York. Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
yeah. So we're a separate nonprofit. We have an official agreement with the university,
Hmm.
and it's student-led, student-funded.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, that autonomy is really helpful in a lot of ways, but there's still a relationship there, and every PERG is different. Right
Yeah.
now, Ellisburg's relationship with the university is good. And yeah, and even the college specifically that I mentioned, Martin Luther University College, um, they actually, so we started the food security program distro during COVID, when there was a lockdown, there was no other food bank. The student union food bank closed down during lockdown. And so we already had that relationship and that care around food security. So as I
Nice.
mentioned at the beginning, I think you missed this part, Phyllis, at the very beginning, I was saying that our original location of the Food Justice Garden, Laurier just told us the day before there's construction, it's going to be demolished tomorrow. And so we went and saved as much as we could, tried to transplant, but having that partner, I literally just called up Luther, this college that we had a relationship with, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we
Yeah.
have a bunch of grass and we don't need it. And we were like, oh, I'm so glad that, we don't
Yeah.
need to pitch a proposal of like, why is it important or why is lawn completely useless and this is the
Yes.
values and this is the reasons why. They were just like, yeah, absolutely. And so we were able to it started off very small there and now it's been a few years, and each year it grows, and there's still just a lot of grass in that area that's completely unused, and as long as it's kept visually like
Yeah.
taken care of, they're
Hmm.
open to it expanding. So I'm really grateful for the partnership.
That's
And
great.
then we also have a partnership with one of the research centers of Luther. It's called the Center for Earth Consciousness and Gender Justice.
Mm.
And a professor, Joy, who is doing her sabbatical, she ended up getting funding for a small greenhouse at the garden. So
Nice.
it's just a small garden or a small little greenhouse, but it's just great to be able to extend the season and use
Exactly.
that to, students can learn how to take care of the seedlings. And then
Hmm.
maybe eventually it'll be able to just be year round, which would be a really cool learning
Yeah.
experience. We have found a big challenge is the um, academic year of September
Yeah.
to April is the exact opposite of the growing season. So
Right.
just when people are kind of getting excited, they come to campus in September, they're excited, and then before you know it, the season is winding down.
Mm.
So that's something that we have
Yeah.
found. I'm curious if anyone knows of any ways to engage over the winter. Um, what does it look like in the off season for your program or any program that you are connected to or have heard of?
I could tell you a little bit about what we are doing. Like honestly, I think we don't even finish, we leave the garden, we winterize it, like do the winter tuck in until November. And then we bring everything in and we've got like lots of teas that we harvest. We have so many seeds that we've collected. And so we do a lot of that kind of processing in the winter time. We did that during December we kind of rested, definitely. And then in January, we slowly did work on processing. And actually, I had a lot of placement students. So again, they were able to get a credit for just um, like filling 5 to 10 hours a week, sort of thing, which has been a great way for me to get hands to help do the work. And so we processed the seeds as well. And we also made balms and salves out of things. So that was really good. And then gradually got a kind of all that production ready to be able to share with people as as February hit. And then we started our indoor sewing work at the end of February. We started a program that we call Maloka Makings. And so we do that every week and people come and help to basically sow the seeds and then tend those seedlings. I just like I have to get it ready, like I feel like I always have to get people involved. So I'm always like inventing a program that they can be part of. And I try never to do something totally by myself because, well, it's not going to be worth anything anyway if that's the case. But it's hard also because it's hard to direct and engage so many people at once as well. And yes, the bombs and status, they're so nice. I love them.
I love that. I love hearing your ideas of how you keep people engaged. And yeah, that's really awesome that I guess your scale is much larger than at our garden. Seed saving is such a small operation for us. So I think, in terms of the scale, you have a lot more work, you need a lot more hands, you can stay busy over the winter months. And yeah, that's awesome to hear. What about other folks? Any thoughts on like the season of the yeah, things, when do they kind of ramp up, or off season aspects? How do you keep people engaged, or do you just go on a bit of a hiatus and then, you know, no.
Honestly, with my experience with the Food Justice Garden, I never really pushed to um, get more people to come attend or help out. I should I just go, I water the plants, try to maintain them, as per instructions, and yeah, I just do it because it's pretty therapeutic, but I never considered that like therapeutic for a lot more others, current students. I should probably think more about that. Um, I just don't bring it up in conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Talani. Like the wellness aspect of it, right? That's why I thought it was cool that Olivia was saying that it's actually the wellness center that is the department where their garden at McMaster's now housed. And that just makes me think of like an untapped partner that we have at all of the garden programs that we have. Um, at Laurier. We have the Laurier Department for like Indigenous Student Center, the Laurier Department of the Sustainability Office. Those are partners. Wellness Education and the Wellness Center haven't really been involved to my knowledge. And that I think is a missed opportunity. So that's a good point, Talani, about, yeah, just it's a very therapeutic thing.
So are we considering, oh, obviously that will be you and the staff, right? I don't know, but like, would you consider bringing up the Olivia method? You just call it Olivia method to um our own wellness center?
Yeah,
Would
I think we should talk about it and see like what could that partnership look like? Would we want to like host, workshops in partnership with them? So it's just a cool idea for us to note, and um, something to like, I know Mandy, you said that Oper Guelph is just thinking of a community garden, and maybe that's something, you can think about. Is this a department we want to reach out to? Guelph, I mean, it's interesting. So is there a community garden at all at Guelph that is not like Oper Guelph is not connected to? Guelph is, oh, okay, Mandy, maybe I'll type my question to you in the chat. I'm just interested. Guelph is all about like the programs themselves are all about the environment and agriculture. So, yeah, I'm just gonna type this up in case you can't hear me. Um, I'd like to hear. Well, yeah, hopefully Mandy can respond to that. Janice, are you able to hear us now?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Hi, Mandy.
Hi. Sorry, I'm like really in and out. I'm catching like half of what everyone's saying. But yeah, so we had a permaculture garden in like the 90s when permaculture was kind of fringe in this community. Like we have the agricultural college. It's very focused on big farming, a lot of Monsanto.
well, can't hear
I
no
think
one.
we lost Mandy.
Yeah, how would you?
Connection issues. I'll ask her to put it in the chat. Okay, she's adding in the chat. Thanks, Mandy. While Mandy's typing that up for us, Janice, I was wondering if you wanted to introduce yourself, whether um, in the chat or if you're comfortable with unmuting. This session is recorded for OPERG Provincial's internal YouTube channel that just the network of PERGs will have access to. But I would love to hear any connection that you have to community gardens or programs or why you decided to join today. Okay, Mandy's saying the organic agriculture program. I got canceled. Um, oh yeah. So yeah, University of Guelph is known for like environmental programs and agricultural programs. So I guess the actual schooling, like the education, kind of took over, and so Oprah Guelph didn't have to be involved. Um, yeah, the university would have more capacity and funding and to take care of that. Mm,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, so basically I can't remember the exact name of it, the Guelph Urban Organic Farm. It's just like down the street from us, and it is a massive organic farm that was like really led by kind of lefties and hippies for a while, but then as with everything, the university was like, we can do this more efficiently, and now it's kind of a lot more mechanized and like lots of straight rows and like very much more kind of like that, but they do still have volunteers and they do sell their produce once a week on campus, and they support like, you know, the food banks on and off campus and all that stuff. So I haven't really spent much time. Like, it has like tractors, you know, so it's different. I haven't spent much time there, but it is a learning opportunity for people, but it's kind of like a whole other scale than what an OPERG can do. So I think like we are interested in starting a community garden, maybe with other groups on campus, but it would be a lot more kind of like going back to like, this is how you could grow food in your yard, not like, you know, you don't need all this like irrigation system and all the stuff that they are doing now at that farm. So that's been kind of the trajectory here. Um, yeah.
Well,
And then
yeah, that's helpful.
Angela's, oh, sorry.
No,
Angela's
go
saying
ahead.
in the chat that Bird Safe Guelph is
I can't tell if that's a thinking pause or a audio cutout pause, Mandy. But yeah,
Thanks,
I've been
Talani.
meeting with the Bird Safe Guelph groups, and they are finally doing a pollinator garden planting on campus. And I believe it's at the same spot that you're describing, Mandy, but I've never actually been to it before. So I learned today actually that they are planning to do the planting the same day as OCAT on the Saturday, potentially, which is good, but also not good because like we're all probably going to be too busy to go there. But probably I can check in about that, Mandy, if they need more people. Um, I also said like maybe the Friday later in the day could be good because if we're just casually hanging out and planting things on the Friday of our community activist training. I should spell out acronyms for people. OPERG does an annual training workshop weekend extravaganza. And yeah, so maybe part of that could be helping them out. I know. I don't think they realized. It's Karen in charge. I don't know if you've met Karen.
That could be cool. That's a cool opportunity. It makes sense in terms of the timing, right? Like the weekend in May that it is. So um that's a cool possibility. Um yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk, Mandy, about, a big skill if it was Oprah Guelph doing this, that you would want to relay is how people can grow their own food at home. I'm wondering, like, what do people think, what kinds of education and conversations do you think are really important in this work? So, um, the beyond the, I guess, tangible skills that any typical, I guess, gardener would need to know. Um, I don't know if what the conversations even around seed saving maybe would look like, Phyllis, right? Or what other conversations do you purposefully bring in or think should be brought in to this work?
Um, well, and first, just before I talk about that, I really want to encourage people here to be a part of this campus, cross-campus food dialogue series that is initiated through the Common Ground Network, because I think it would be really good. And I'll try. I don't know who I would send it to that could pass it around to everybody else, but um, I'd be happy to send the link to kind of join it. It's just a once a month thing. And there are presentations, and then there are just people that kind of introduce where they're from. So I feel like that's one of the key dialogues to me is just like, what are the impacts and the benefits of campus farms, campus food, campus community collaborations in food. Like it's been around forever, and I think everybody's doing it, but it's not necessarily recognized as sort of formal action unless there's a very established farm, let's say like TMU has with their rooftop garden or something like that. Um, so I think like food systems transformation, it should really be included in definitely in every sustainability portfolio. I think it gets thrown under the rug a little bit. And I know like even we had a lot of food systems courses, but we never had like a certificate or a degree or anything like that. And I just don't know, like for something so basic, it's interesting to me that it's not talked about more because I guess we're just all so trapped in the industrial food system and that's where that's like my lunch is it's gonna come from that, unless it's the season. So I'm so intertwined in that system. So the more that we can kind of talk about the importance of growing locally, and I just really I love the concept of small farm revolution in a way because I just feel like it is completely reliant on people and people working together in kind of sharing and reciprocal ways. And I feel like that it does so much, not just for relationship with each other, but relationship with the earth. Um, and then, I mean, I also feel like another dialogue that should happen and that maybe universities can be a part of putting out there is just the importance of like square footage. So as much of development that is happening in so many communities, there should be an equal percentage or some kind of percentage of that space and development that is going to develop community gardens, or just like communal food growing space. Like all the condos and the residential development that happens, that it's a lot of people from all over the world are taking up space in those houses, which is awesome. And they come with tremendous food practices. And so I feel like to create community and to complement all the knowledge that they bring, I think it's like a strategy also to create safe neighborhoods, to have those community gardens happening, you know? So again, I feel like there's something that we could all be doing together somehow, like, but I know it's so hard because like it's so hard to find the time. But I also just really believe in collective impact and just how we can, just keep disrupting these like politics and systems that keep us separate and keep us competitive and just like share, 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 share. Just like resist and share everything. And like I really want to share all that I am learning. I'm just learning so much and I really I feel like there's something afoot here that I'm so grateful to be a part of, and I just want to contribute as best I can. So there's also like a national food. McGill, I think, is doing this national food campus food system website. So that's another thing where, again, through that cross-campus food dialogue series, that's where we can all like put ourselves on a map. Like I think they're doing a big mapping project so that it kind of looks at like student-led initiatives, more organizational-led initiatives, things like that. So I think, again, like the more that we can kind of come together and share things, I think it's going to be helpful to make the case for who we are, and collaborating across like cities. Oh my goodness, I love that stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. I love everything that you just said. Is the Common Ground network that you were mentioning, is that like across Ontario or nationally or
National, national.
national? Okay. Cool. Yeah. If you can email me, I just put my email in
Oh,
the chat. If you
okay.
want to email me, I can share that with
Everybody.
OPIRG Provincial Network. So
Awesome.
um, yeah, I can relay that information. And then also the local community garden network, I can share that to them too.
Oh yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, I'll find that email where they made the invitation. I think the next meeting is coming up at the end of April, and I'd love to see some of you folks there for sure. I think
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, thank
it'd be
you.
good to be part of.
What about other folks? What do you think? What other kind of social or environmental justice issues or movements or conversations um, do you think need to be pulled in? Whether that's already happening or you think we need more of that? What do you think, Danny?
I'm thinking just land back actions and groups and really tying that in and working to um, find ways to ensure the ownership of the land can get back into Indigenous hands, and finding ways to, however we can do that, as being like part of the primary focus, and then uh, also getting talking about getting people involved and stuff. Um, how like with Opark Brock, because we don't have funding from Brock, we don't have student funding in that way. Um, we don't really have support from the university, so we're so reliant on community and finding ways to engage across, like Phyllis was saying, with across the different sectors of getting the harm reduction folks involved in this and like using it as because everyone needs food, and having that as the like connecting point, and the lack of spaces that people can be in. Um, I don't know exactly what it's like for every city outside of St. Catharines, but just with like all the bylaws that have been passed, anti-homeless bylaws, stuff that make it um, really hard to be poor in public, um, and not like just being it. You can't even go to a park without um, chased out. So community gardens being a literal physical space that people can actually just go to, and like incorporating finding ways to like have it as a shared space, like people that need to have groups that want to have a barbecue or stuff like that, being able to use those community garden spaces as much as we do for like the food and growing things, but incorporating it as like a shared space, I guess. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. Something that I just received an email this morning that I wanted to share regarding what you just said, Danny. So the Sustainability Office of Laurier, they after COVID, they felt the space was just being very underutilized, and so they wanted to make a lot of changes, and that included like a big kind of visioning of like what could it be in like 5, 10 years. And what they came up with, a lot of the people at the garden actually were really concerned about. And so I've been all winter talking to saying, hey, you said you'd consult with us on some of these changes. Haven't heard from you. Now it's spring. Is any of this happening? And so we're going to be meeting about this soon. But one of the aspects is they want to put up fencing around the garden to prevent food from being stolen, which there's no real signage and people don't even know what the purpose of the food is. So, first of all, we could just communicate, hey, this is what this food is for. If you're able to come on a Thursday when we harvest, that is when you can get the food, or, like just communication. And then also, they under someone was saying, well, the fence isn't going to stop people from stealing food to survive. And then we're like, well, we can just have special constables police it and make sure that it doesn't happen. And also it'll hold the boundary so people know where the garden begins and ends, because there's a slope of just like lawn, but we've been wanting to have that naturalized, that space. And in between the parking lot anyway, the point is they don't want it to be a hangout space. They don't want it to be a shared public space where people come. Now they hang out. Students will have a smoke there. They want to make sure that doesn't happen, and just completely restrict it in terms of infrastructure. So that's a perfect example of like right now, it's not like that. And we need to make sure that it doesn't turn into that. So we need to I mean, the good thing is we have a relationship with them where we're able to at least learn about these things before it happened. There was a fence put up maybe 15 years ago around the greenhouse there. And the community group, what didn't know, they just showed up and they were absolutely distraught by what had happened. Like they didn't even know it was coming. So completely agree with you, Danny. We need it to be a shared public space. And the opportunities that will come from that. I really think it's cool, like the program that Oprah Brock has around. You have a really good partnership with health sciences and around training medical or health science students around harm reduction. I wonder if there is room to have this kind of wellness conversation, added into that. Maybe one day that partnership could bring in the community garden aspects of things.
Absolutely. I think that is definitely on the talks of directions that we wanted to go because it would, yeah, just make sense to partner with health in that area.
Yeah,
And that's so
absolutely.
concerning that they're trying to do that.
Yeah. Anyone else have thoughts of any other education conversations, or I move us maybe into the last question? Okay. So we have about 10 minutes left. I wanted to kind of close out the session with a visioning session. I'm wondering, like, what are your dreams for what your program or a program possible? Maybe you have some ideas that's not really a thing yet. Where do you think that maybe it could be in 5 years, let's say? It's 5 years is not that far away, but also like a lot can happen within 5 years. So curious what comes to mind for folks. Maybe while everyone's thinking, Mandy, would you be able to just share about, you've been thinking about Oper Guelph having a garden that looks very different than the really huge university one. What would you love for that to look like?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I think I just missed a bunch of the context of that question. Sorry, but um, I will say one of the things it's mostly Amarawa who's really interested in getting the garden started. So I won't speak for her, but we have had a few conversations with other people who are interested in kind of like replacing some of the ornamental plants that the university maintains with actual things that you can actually eat. So kind of like a guerrilla gardening, but like not actually because we would have permission because our grounds people are unionized and that would have to be something that they are on board with. But just kind of like showing the idea that like we don't need to have like pretty flowers, like we actually can grow food in all these spaces, and see what kind of conversations come from that in terms of like medians in the middle of roads and like that kind of stuff. I really like what I've heard people do in some of the Scandinavian countries with I guess they have a really short growing season and they kind of have their neighborhoods. So they'll have somebody who's like, this year I'm growing the tomatoes. And then this year I'm growing like the zucchinis. And that kind of helps to bring people together because then they all share with each other. And they're also, they don't need to have a garden that's all like separated for different kinds of stuff with like different inputs, different like work. They just kind of are like, I'm focusing on this year. And they rotate like for soil health purposes. But it does like a few things and that you can specialize on a small scale and that you can also like come together with your neighbors to share things. And so I feel like things that could be talked about like um like in the garden space or like amongst the people doing it, but then can be taken away to their own neighborhoods and to their own like balconies or garden yards or whatever they have. I think it'd be really great to sort of build people's skills in a way that they can take it away. We have talked about potentially partnering with the Indigenous Student Center and the CSA Food Bank, but it's really kind of in the dream stage, not the actual planning stage right now.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That what you started with saying about taking the ornamental garden beds and transforming it into edible. That's actually how the Food Justice Garden started during lockdown when no one was on campus and everyone was so food insecure. And food security, I think it just took like a different public, everyone started gardening at home during that time. Like it was just the public discourse had shifted. Um, and so we actually had a whole bunch of areas like raised bed or not raised bed, what's it called? Just garden beds on campus and like planters and stuff in the main areas. And then when Return to Campus first started in the September, we had some signs up being like, help yourself to these cherry tomatoes or whatever grown by, and we had some signage there. And then April rolled around and facilities said we needed to remove all of it so they could add in their flowers specifically, and they put this in writing, which is so wild to me, specifically for the convocation photos that will happen in June. They said that is the most important thing, and we need to make sure that all of the beds are filled with big purple and yellow flowers. And so, yeah, I think, Mandy, what you were saying about needing their approval is wild. It sucks. Um, maybe, I mean, yeah, I think the relationship of what might happen on your campus if you didn't have approval. But I would hope that, especially at Guelph, there would be room for that, like in terms of the environment and the like just the programs and the awareness. You would think they would think that beautiful tomato plants are like what's wrong with that? Would be the hope anyway. So, and I love that you're in the dreaming stage. I think that's awesome. Angela, did you want to share about just about a little bit about what you have in the chat?
Yeah, so the Waterloo Community Garden Network lead, Doug Jones, shared this video during a food security meeting in Brantford about the Petersburg Garden there in Waterloo. I've shared it in the chat. Um, what's amazing about this is that they take these small parcels of farmland, like rentable space, and because everybody knows Doug Jones has been there forever, so everybody, congregates around him who's interested in accessing land. And for people who are serious, who need substantial land access, they manage to rent the land and then provide access for people who need not, a 6 by 10 or, 2 by 5 garden plot, but like rows upon rows of space for growing food. And he has a lot of even folks from abroad with different strategies of growing there. It really seems quite idyllic. And offers a transition from these urban spaces that are great for education, for introduction to gardening, for people who don't have maybe the mobility or access to more distant plots, to or no shade against community gardens. I love community gardens, but this is sort of like this in between and far more food security catered, I would say, style that really thrives on network building, right? So if there's a point person in your city who everybody who's looking for land goes to, and communicates their actual needs for space to, this is something that then unlocks. I moved to Hamilton 2 years ago, or I guess it's a year ago, and I had to reach out individually to every community garden in town and track, okay, I heard no from here, no from here, no from here, no from here. And it's a 2 year waiting list here, it's a 3 year waiting list here. Uh, if you have a centralized communication hub, it just seems like that's something to aspire to as well, right? Like functioning as the spoke of a wheel kind of thing, where people get directed out from the center, would be my dream ideal, is like positioning myself as a communication hub.
I love that. I think that's a wonderful dream. And Doug is a very forward-thinking, like long-term. And I agree, we need more space than a small little plot for like a lot of people who are capable of doing that. They need to be able to have the access to the land that they have the capacity to do, and collaborative too, not just, yeah, we a collaborative space to work together on things. So lots of different options, lots of dreams, lots of things in the works. I really loved hearing from everyone today. Um, just to close things out, Phyllis, you're going to email me about that network. I'm going to share that out, as well as this recording. So if anything was mentioned and you didn't get a chance to jot it down, you can do that. Feel free to share the link as well with anyone else, like in your, gardens. It's not to be posted on social media widely, but if there's someone else that you think should see it, that's totally okay. And yeah, thank you so much. Today was an OPERG provincial lunch. So we have these sessions once a month. We're going to be going on a break for the summer, and then starting in September again, we'll be back to hosting a monthly sessions. It's every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month at noon. And yeah, it was really wonderful to hear everyone your what's already happening and the dreams and the possibilities. It's good to have some hope amidst a very dire world that we're in right now. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for hosting. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. I'm glad you joined.
Yeah, me too. I hope to talk soon.